So I called this Discovering Your Personal Mission, Vision, and Values. And the reason I'm applying this idea is not because it's a new idea. We've been doing it for businesses as a consulting group at Princeton Partners for a long time. But the challenge that organizations have is, how do you get people engaged? How do you get them motivated? And how do you find that intrinsic motivation that builds culture, that builds innovation, that builds risk-taking? And we know from millennials that focusing on purpose is very, very important. So we're going to talk about mission, vision, and values. Let me start with a quick story, though. You all have seen this in the supermarket. Rows of Campbell's soup. Quite an array. In fact, this is a small sampling of that, and there are many other brands. Well, I once heard this story. The story was about a little boy, 3 years old, who was with his mother and grandmother, and they decided to go shopping. They go to the grocery store, and the boy's in the cart. He's getting very impatient and a little cranky. And the mother has a brilliant idea. She says to the boy, "Son, why don't you help Mom and Grandmom shop a little bit?" She pulls him out of the cart, places him down on the floor, and he's presented with a view just like this. Rows of Campbell's soup cans. "Pick out 3, she says to the little boy. He grabs one, tucks it into his arm, bends down, picks up a second can, puts it next to his wrist, picks up the third can, and is nearly satisfied with the accomplishment when the first one drops out. Plunk. Well, he tries again. He bends down, picks up the third can, puts it in, but the middle one falls out. He does it again, and he does it again. After 5 or 6 repeated attempts, he gives up. He takes the 2, hands them to Mom. But before he does that, on the way, he says, "Oh, shit." The grandmother turns to the mother and says, "He got that from you." And she says, "Where do you think I learned it from?" This is about a life of choices. And there are a lot of choices in life. And selecting your personal mission is a choice. It's my personal belief. If you think about successful organizations, they manage quarter by quarter, year by year. They have 5-year strategic plans, and they have mission statements. And some of the most successful, Microsoft and Google, have these great mission statements. And it's all part of an MVV strategy, mission, vision, and values. Microsoft, to empower every person and every organization on the planet, if not the universe, to achieve more. Now, would you say that Microsoft has been accomplishing that goal? Okay. How about Google? Has Google delivered on this mission? To organize the world's information, make it universally accessible and useful. How many of you would agree that that's accomplished by Google? All right, so it's a great mission, and they've accomplished that. It's because research has shown that this impacts the most important component of an organization. It's people. And the biggest differentiator in a commoditized world is culture. And you will never succeed without innovation. Because if you're resting on your laurels, tomorrow somebody will replace Facebook. People, culture, and innovation are the core and the foundation of the mission, vision, and values that operate within the framework of a business structure. Okay? So, I asked the question, why not have your own MVV? After all, you're your own corporation. You're your own CEO. Have you ever thought about it? Have any of you ever written down a mission statement for yourselves? Not one. Okay. So let's think about what would happen if we had our own MVV, and what would be the process for doing that. First, I would suggest you think about your world and belief system, your worldview, what you think about the world, your belief system as a core, and challenge those beliefs and your values. Your education, career, and personal development. Some of you look like you recently graduated, and some of you look like you're ready to graduate on in a different way. The point is here, you're always developing yourself. How you spend your time and what you take into your mind is really a useful endeavor to constantly improve. We got to look at your relationships and family life. I've heard this said over and over, it's all about relationships. At the end of the day, that's what we really care about. That's the core, that's the middle of your mission, vision, and values. And you want to pass those values down to the people you love and around you. How about your community, your leisure and creative pursuits? How are you spending your time to work on yourself so that you're a whole human being. And then finally, your legacy. This is kind of a luxury. I hate the word legacy. Governors want legacy. Presidents want legacy. That's why they're in office, to get a legacy. But if you really think about it, we all have a legacy. We'll all leave something behind, and hopefully it's going to be positive memories of influencing our family and our friends and our communities. Now, our mission, vision, and values framework is very much a formation of our identity of how we perceive who we are, how we feel about ourselves, how we want to change ourselves. We can all change ourselves. People are constantly in that process, or you don't have to if you don't want to. In fact, a lot of people don't want to. But it takes some plans and decision making in order to think about yourself the way an organization thinks about themselves. They think about what can we improve today for a better tomorrow. I think that's something that we should apply to ourselves. I like to think of it as your purpose, your mission, vision, and values. It's a good word, your purpose. In general, why are you here? And there's a guy by the name of Simon Sinek. You may have heard him before. He had a famous TED Talk. He's written a book, Start With Why. And he makes the case that if you can define your why as a corporation and communicate that message to the marketplace, you will be far more successful than you start with the what you do. Everybody knows what you do, how you sell, how you operate. But when you think about these terms, I relate them back to mission, vision, and values. Your how is how you conduct yourself and how you make decisions based on your very personal values. And I believe that if you get your values right, your vision comes from being very foggy to being a little bit more refined. And that vision is some kind of end goal of where you think your life is. Maybe it's a 5-year end goal, maybe it's a 10-year, maybe it's a 20-year end goal. And you can actually clarify a purpose within that framework. We are the sum of our experiences. And this is very, very pragmatic. And this is where it all comes down to this time, space, and place equation. You are never going to change your life or achieve a mission or feel better about yourselves in terms of your mission, vision, and values if you haven't got a command or a plan about time, place, and space. Let me define that. Everybody knows what time is. If you want to get better in your body, you add a little bit more time to working out. If you want to get better with your mind, you might read a little more than watching mindless television. I believe that this idea of space is so important, and for me, it's mind space. It's freeing yourself from all distractions and all clutter. I'll give you a personal example. I personally like to write music, I like to write poetry, I like to write stories. In fact, I can't wait to retire someday so that I could do more of that. But I know I'm pretty good kind of naturally at that, but I have a lot of work to do and I'm not an expert, and I want to get pretty good at it. So I decided several years ago that I was going to devote Saturday mornings in terms of a time and a place in my home and a space avoiding all distractions, that I would not turn on a TV, look at a newspaper, do anything to distract me from getting up at 6:30 or 6 o'clock and sometimes 5 o'clock in the morning enthusiastically to work on writing. And I have written sometimes for as long as 3 hours, which is a lot of time on a Saturday morning, before the stomach growls and you want to get a breakfast. So I think that it's really important to get command of your time, your space, and your place. And if you can establish a discipline in that arena and relate it to a personal mission or a personal goal, you're going to more than likely build the skill set that you need to accomplish those goals. I call that a unified you. Bring it all together. Your purpose, your mission, vision, and values defines that very clearly. Your experience, that is that pragmatic time, place, and space. And then your being. Don't forget to feed your soul. Don't forget to feed your body. All of that will feed the mind. It is all one integrated whole. We think about it as 3 parts, but it's really one integrated whole for a unified whole and a unified you. Okay, so in summary, life is about choices. And while there are lots of choices at the supermarket, tomato soup is my favorite. Especially with grilled cheese. I like to dip the grilled cheese into the tomato soup. Nothing better than that. And the little boy in that story was me, and that was a true story. Thanks for your time today. Greatly appreciate it.